Have you ever questioned how someone could have such a profound impact on your life that you won't be the same? If you're looking for information about how narcissistic abuse alters you and, more crucially, how to recover your identity after it has occurred, you've come to the correct spot. Narcissistic abuse is a gradual disintegration of your identity and goes beyond simple manipulation or control. You start to doubt everything as it permeates your body, mind, and feelings. The fact is, though, that although this type of abuse might alter you, it can also serve as the basis for growth and resilience. We'll talk about the emotional and physical effects of narcissistic abuse today, as well as the effective actions you may take to get past it and develop. This film serves as a reminder that you have the ability to escape and start over if you've ever felt stuck by your past. For additional information about resiliency, healing, and purposeful life, remember to hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell before we begin. Chapter 1: The Landscape of Emotion. It's hard to describe what narcissistic abuse does to your head. It initially appears to be an anomaly, a few strange instances where things don't quite add together. Perhaps it's the way they misrepresent your words in a conflict, leaving you wondering if you were being too harsh or too sensitive, or how they transform a sincere discussion about your needs into a tirade about their sacrifices. You convince yourself that it's only a misunderstanding, but as time passes, the fissures widen and something begins to change within you. You now have doubts about yourself in addition to them. This is how your perception of reality is distorted by narcissistic abuse. Instead of crashing in with a sledgehammer, it infiltrates silently like water seeping through a ceiling crack, going undetected until the harm is too great to ignore. You start to doubt your recollections. Did it actually occur as you recall? You might have overreacted. One of the sneakiest strategies used by narcissists is gaslighting, which makes you feel as though you don't understand yourself. Your ideas seem to have been flung into a haze, causing you to stumble in an attempt to find clarity that never materializes. The purposeful nature of this self-eroding process is what makes it even more confusing. Narcissists are adept at rewriting history to suit their interests by assigning blame and manipulating others. They can accuse you of being overly sentimental or unappreciative if you show you're hurt. As time passes, you start to trust what they're saying. You begin self-policing, changing your actions to appease them or keep them from getting angry. The criticism they give you quickly makes your voice, which once guided you, sound muted. The loss of identity is a more profound and agonizing layer. Your sense of self is eroded by narcissistic abuse until you find yourself looking in the mirror and questioning your own identity. Your desires are replaced with their needs and expectations. You no longer ask, "What am I looking for?" Thus, the response no longer seems pertinent. Rather, you inquire, "What will maintain harmony?" or "How do I keep from getting into another fight?" It's not just about feeling in control, it's also about the horrifying knowledge that you've begun to fade away in the process. Then there is the ongoing worry. It's like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire when you live with a narcissist, because you never know when your next mistake will send you flying. You adjust by becoming extremely watchful, looking for warning indications in their tone, mood, and even the smallest behavioral changes. Your body remains on high alert, as though it were preparing for an unseen storm that is constantly approaching. You forget what it feels like to unwind because you get so used to the stress. According to contemporary psychology, this type of ongoing stress has a significant impact on the brain. Your fight or flight reaction, which is designed to keep you safe in an emergency, goes into overdrive. It is comparable to a smoke alarm that continues to sound even after the fire has been put out for a long time. This weakens you over time, making it more difficult to think properly, make choices, or even follow your gut. The significance of controlling one's views is frequently discussed in Stoic wisdom, yet narcissistic abuse turns this concept into a harsh paradox. When someone else has transformed your mind into a battlefield, how can you maintain control over it? The first step to mending is realizing that the voice of doubt and shame isn't yours, rather, it's theirs. However, it takes a great deal of bravery to acknowledge the harm and start to unravel the web they've woven around your mind. Not only can narcissistic abuse impact your perception of other people, but it also changes your perception of yourself. It compels you to bear unjustified burdens, to doubt once held beliefs, and to live your life as though you're constantly unsteady. In spite of everything, you must never forget that you possess a silent power that can assist you in regaining your mental clarity, one fragment at a time. Every little step you take on the long road to self-reclamation is a declaration that you are more than the harm they attempt to inflict. Chapter 2. The Outward Expression. Bu. Akan Forthanaviat. Many individuals are unaware of the profound physical scars left by mental abuse. Not only does it persist in your thoughts, but it also becomes ingrained in your heartbeat, breath, and muscles. Your body remembers long after the disputes are over and the apologies, whether genuine or not, have been exchanged. Even though you may not be aware of it, there is a connection between the narcissist in your life and the migraines, insomnia, and shoulder tightness. Even when your mind tries to minimize or excuse the harm, your body doesn't lie. Persistent worry turns into a silent companion. Living under a narcissist's emotional control is like being trapped in a pressure cooker. The stress increases daily and never completely goes away. It feels like a predator that is both invisible and unavoidable, is chasing you all the time. But even when everything appears to be peaceful, this state of hyperarousal may manifest as racing thoughts, insomnia, or the uneasy sense that something horrible is going to happen. This constant worry eventually begins to physically exhaust you. Perhaps you experience a sharp decline in your energy levels, similar to a battery that depletes more quickly regardless of how frequently you replenish it. The fact that your body is running on fumes makes even the smallest chores feel challenging. As your immune system weakens due to the continual assault of stress hormones like cortisol, you may become ill more frequently. You start to have headaches, skis, muscle soreness, and digestive issues on a daily basis. But these aren't just any illnesses, they're your body's method of telling you that something is seriously off. The meaning of exhaustion changes completely when you are experiencing narcissistic abuse. It's a deep-seated exhaustion that makes even little periods of rest seem insufficient. It's not just physical fatigue. Even if you spend hours in bed, you may wake up feeling as though you haven't slept at all. That's because your body is constantly on high alert, waiting for the next emotional surprise attack, rather than actually sleeping. Your physical symptoms worsen your mental anguish, and vice versa, as a result of this ongoing state of alertness. The way this physical toll separates you is even more heartbreaking. It is more difficult to connect with people, even those who care about you, when your body is in disarray. You may withdraw because you feel too broken to face the world, or you may cancel plans because you're too exhausted. Naturally, the narcissist takes advantage of this loneliness and uses it as proof that you are the issue. They wear you down until you are too exhausted to defend yourself, and then they take advantage of your fatigue. It's a vicious cycle. However, there is more to this tale, and it has to do with perseverance. Your body is attempting to protect you even as it endures the effects of narcissistic abuse. When they increase their voice, that knot in your stomach is your intuition warning you. The weariness that compels you to take a break. Your body is requesting the attention it has been denied. Your bodily symptoms serve as a kind of roadmap that points you in the direction of the things that require care and recovery. One of the first steps to taking back your identity is to reconnect with your body. You can start to release the tension that has been held in your muscles and tissues by engaging in exercises like yoga, mindfulness, or even taking a stroll in the outdoors. Focusing on what we can control is a lesson from Stoic wisdom. Although you cannot change the past, you can take small, intentional measures to take care of the body that has supported you throughout it. In addition to leaving scars, narcissistic abuse makes you realize that your body is on your side, a fact that is easy to forget. Even when it seemed like the world or your mind was against you, it has always been fighting for you. You'll discover that healing is achievable as you learn to pay attention to its cues and respect its requirements. Chapter 3: The Effects on the Mind. The narcissist remains in your thoughts like an unstoppable echo even after they have left. You may convince yourself that you are free, but when the harm they have caused continues to reverberate in your decisions, ideas, and even relationships, freedom feels vacuous. This is the terrible legacy of abuse caused by narcissism. It changes how you view the world and yourself, in addition to leaving emotional scars. Finding out how thoroughly narcissistic abuse has conditioned you to be stuck is one of the most agonizing realities of overcoming it. For example, trauma bonding is a psychological chain that is just as real as any physical constraint. It's the paradox of feeling connected and confined while being pulled to someone who causes you pain. The recollections of the pleasant times, the infrequent times when they appeared to be kind, considerate, and even affectionate, become the lure that draws you in. It's survival, not weakness. These moments give you hope that perhaps things can return to normal before the chaos started, which is why your mind clings to them. The trauma, however, doesn't end there. When you experience narcissistic abuse, you start to doubt your own and other people's trustworthiness. What does that say about your judgment? After all, if someone you cared about and loved could treat you in this manner? You may find yourself reading too much into people's remarks, questioning their sincerity, or looking for ulterior motivations in every connection. Once lost, trust is difficult to regain. It is similar to attempting to assemble a puzzle in which half of the pieces are missing and the image is constantly shifting. This mistrust frequently spreads within. Narcissists are experts at sowing the seeds of self-doubt, and over time those seeds can develop into a forest of insecurity. You may find yourself mentally reliving conflicts and questioning whether you were truly at fault. Because you've been trained to doubt yourself constantly, even the smallest decisions might feel overwhelming. The ongoing struggle between the part of you that wants to move on and the half that is still caught up in the web they created is taxing. And then there's the cycle's eerie repetition. Not because they desire to, but because it feels familiar, many survivors find themselves drawn to similar dynamics in subsequent relationships. And your perception of love and connection has been altered by the narcissist, who has made it harder to distinguish between affection and control. Every road leads back to the same kind of suffering, making it similar to navigating a maze with no way out. It is both terrible and exhilarating to recognize this tendency. It opens the way to healing, but it also makes you face the extent of the harm. According to Stoicism, our character is shaped by how we handle hardship rather than the suffering itself. The psychological damage caused by narcissistic abuse is no different. These scars need your attention, but they don't have to define you. In order to heal, one must be willing to sit with the suffering, look at it objectively, and comprehend its origin. Although it's difficult work, it's essential if you wish to escape the patterns that have held you down. Learning to distinguish your voice from the narcissists is one of the first stages. The anxiety, criticism, and self-doubt are not yours. They were given to you by someone who wished to have control over you. You are no longer required to carry them. As time passes, you begin to recognize the patterns for what they are: outdated survival strategies. You start to question the ideas the narcissist gave you and replace them with facts based on your experiences and principles. Making the decision to live by your values rather than the warped reality they forced upon you is the key to regaining your mentality. There may be setbacks along the way, but every moment of realization and every stride toward trust is a success. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the obstacle to action promotes action. The psychological effects of narcissistic abuse can seem like an insurmountable barrier, but they can also present an opportunity to rebuild yourself with strength and purpose. What stands in the way becomes the way. What occurred to you does not define you. It is possible to break the pattern and heal the trauma. You'll discover that the parts of yourself you believed were gone were never really gone when you take back your control. All they were waiting for was for you to find them again. Chapter 4: The Process of Self-Reclamation. It's like waking up in a weird new environment after being abused by someone with narcissistic tendencies. The idea of thriving seems alien to you since you've been living in survival mode for so long. Even while the scars are present and ingrained in your ideas, actions, and sense of self, your tale does not end there. Now is the time to start the process of returning to yourself, one step at a time. Acknowledging what has been done to you is the first step. Although it may appear straightforward, this is frequently the most difficult aspect. Confusion and self-doubt allow narcissistic abuse to flourish, making you unsure of what is genuine. Recognizing the truth of your experience is similar to removing layers of denial and distortion to expose the unadulterated reality. Although it hurts, it also gives you power. You start reclaiming the story as soon as you give a name to what transpired. You are now the author of your own story and no longer the victim of one written by someone else. The cornerstone of healing is awareness. You acquire the ability to break the patterns that have imprisoned you as you begin to comprehend them. Perhaps you catch yourself hesitant to set boundaries out of fear of conflict or rejection, or perhaps you realize that you've been seeking approval from others, a behavior developed over years of attempting to please the narcissist. Although these insights can be unsettling, they are also freeing. Each serves as a reminder that you have a variety of options. The process of healing is not simple and takes time. Pulling weeds, fertilizing the soil, and waiting for growth is more akin to caring for an abandoned garden. It may feel overpowering at first. It seems like there is an unlimited amount of effort and harm. However, with perseverance and time, you begin to notice tiny indications of improvement, a flash of insight here, a glimmer of confidence there. In the rich soil of your consciousness, these are the seeds of your new self sprouting. An essential component of this process is self-compassion. You might have been indoctrinated to be your own worst critic for years, mentally mimicking the narcissist's voice. However, the remedy for such inward brutality is compassion. It's the act of showing yourself the same consideration and compassion that you would show a close friend. Self-compassion reminds you that healing is a journey, not a test of perfection, when you unavoidably stumble or regress. Rebuilding trust in oneself and others is also necessary. Regaining trust can be like walking on thin ice, with every step hesitant and tinged with anxiety. However, trust is about discernment, not blind faith. You gain the ability to discern between those who respect your boundaries and those who don't as you recover. And you start to trust your judgment once more as you respect your intuition. Boundaries serve as both your shelter and your armor. Setting boundaries can feel like an act of rebellion after years of having your limitations disregarded or ignored, but it's also an act of self-love. Boundaries are bridges to stronger relationships that value and respect your needs, not walls designed to keep others out. You are saying, I value myself enough to protect my peace with every barrier you establish. Chapter 5: Embracing Vulnerability as Strength. Vulnerability seems like a risk you can't afford to take after experiencing such severe hurt. It may feel impossible to open out again after spending so much time protecting yourself from injury. However, being vulnerable means accepting your humanity rather than putting yourself in danger. It's realizing that despite everything you've gone through, remaining open is a sign of strength rather than weakness. Realizing that your scars don't make you less of who you are, rather, they make you stronger, is one of the most life-changing insights in the healing process. Adversity serves as the best teacher, according to Stoic philosophy. According to a quote from Marcus Aurelius, you have power over your mind, not outside events. You will find strength if you realize this. Although the experiences you have had at the hands of a narcissist may seem to have defined you, they have really improved you. Every adversity has given you insight into your ability to persevere, adjust, and develop. Learning to view your vulnerability as a springboard to stronger relationships rather than a liability is essential to moving forward. It's simple to erect barriers and keep out those who could harm you again after enduring narcissistic abuse. However, real healing occurs when you replace those walls with ones that are both flexible enough to foster meaningful relationships and sturdy enough to protect you. Being vulnerable within those parameters allows you to re-establish relationships with people without losing who you are. Now is also the moment to find your voice again. You frequently feel silenced after experiencing abuse, as your feelings and views are reduced or disregarded. Speaking up is only one aspect of reclaiming your voice. Another is realizing the worth of your thoughts and feelings. Even if it may begin modestly, a diary entry or an open discussion with a friend, each expression is a step in the right direction toward regaining your confidence. You're discovering who you are, not just your voice. Chapter 6: Revising the Story. It can seem as though narcissistic abuse takes away your narrative. Your existence was centered around the wants, needs, and manipulations of others for a very long time. The story was crafted to keep you small, obedient, and doubtful of your value. It wasn't yours. The fact is, though, that you are not defined by their story. It didn't. One decision at a time, you have the ability to take back your life and change the course of your story. Erasing the past, the suffering, the uncertainty, the confusion is not the goal here. It doesn't have to be the end. It's all a part of your journey. You have the option to view the events as stepping stones to a stronger, more liberated version of yourself, rather than as things that bind you. Small, intentional steps are the first steps in rewriting your story. You regain some of your power each time you confront the voice of self-doubt. You demonstrate that your needs and feelings are important when you establish boundaries. You demonstrate that you are more than the scars you bear when you decide to trust someone or yourself again. Even while these actions might not seem like much, they are the pieces that make up a new narrative in which you are the protagonist rather than the victim. A crucial step in this process is reflection. Look back to see your strength, not to linger on the hurt. Consider the times when you maintained your composure in the face of overwhelming odds. Appreciate the moments when you moved forward despite feeling like it was impossible. Not the abuse or manipulation you experienced, but these events are what make you who you are. As you proceed, keep in mind that healing is about progress rather than perfection. On some days, the burden of the past will be too much to bear, but on other days, you will experience the freedom that comes with being free. Each is a component of the journey. The important thing is that you continue to make the same decision over and over again. The pen is now in your hands and your tale is still being written. You have the ability to craft a story of resiliency, development, and self-discovery in which your past influences your transformation rather than overshadowing it. In this new chapter, every choice, no matter how minor, is a line. The statement, "I am more than what happened to me," is expressed in every act of self-love. I am complete. I am worthy. Let this be your truth, a voice that is strong, distinct, and unquestionably yours, rather than one that is influenced by the narcissist's voice. You are living, not merely surviving. It is up to you to shape the life that lies ahead.